Hey, what's up? So this is video number 2 in this little 3-video series, and it is about bodybuilding. So I already made a video about bodybuilding that has a lot of stuff in it that basically like about how it's like a spiritual practice, because it freaking is. All right. And so but this one is basically everything that I've learned about the science of bodybuilding in the say number of months or year that I've been practicing bodybuilding, right? Because there's a lot to it, and there's a science to it, and it's weird at the gym. Guys don't always just like share this information with each other, because it's like you can't be liable for somebody else, and everybody's got to find their own way and blah blah blah, and so for myself, I I did so much research. I had to figure out all this stuff for myself. It was a lot of damn work. I probably watched hundreds of videos, and and what else? And anyways, yeah, just tons and tons and tons of research, trial and error. Anyways, these are but at the end of the day, there is a certain narrative. It's just like with spiritual stuff. There's basically one story. And so this is it. As far as working out, I'm going to give you everything that I learned as fast as I can, because it's so simple. It doesn't need to take forever, and you don't have to figure it out for yourself. But most people don't know all of this stuff, and even people that have been doing it for a long time who didn't do their research, they don't even know, and they'll give you bad advice, right? Because they don't know what they're talking about. And I've run into this, and it's goofy, because then they get butthurt because they're like, "Oh, I know what I'm talking." It's like, no, you don't. And it's like, Google it. It's right there. You have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, so basically, how do you build muscle? So it's called hypertrophy. Number one, there's two types of it. Sarcoplasmic, which it makes the plasma around your muscles get bigger, and then myofibrillar. So one, myofibrillar, focuses on strength. Sarcoplasmic focuses on size. Sarcoplasmic, it's like, say, higher reps, lighter loads. And myofibrillar is like heavier reps and huge loads, like really heavy stuff. And of course you could do both, or right, whatever. But that's something that's important to recognize. And this is this point that these guys that I was talking to, that they had it wrong. It's like, because if you don't know what you're after, then like how, like say your legs. So there's a thing called twitch fibers. Your muscles, how they're built, they're called, there's like slow twitch, fast twitch, medium twitch, hybrid twitch. And it's just like, your arms are meant to move fast, kind of like this. There's certain parts of your body that are meant to move in certain ways, some of them a bit slower. Your legs are clearly meant to carry you around and walk and run and this and that. Your calves are built different to your quads and to your glutes and all this kind of stuff, right? So you find out something that's super important when you get into bodybuilding is to understand that the different twitch fibers, what they are in the different parts of your body. And then you can just like find videos about these things in particular, right? I'm not going to go into the details, but it's like, say your legs, they're slow twitch. They want, say, like, if you want to gain size, you want to do like 20 reps of something. If you're doing only like, say, doing squats or something like that, if you're doing like 10 or I don't know, 5, like low numbers, you're not tapping into the muscle's innate ability to, or the what it needs to be stimulated in order to grow and get stronger. You have to understand that how it works and what it needs as a stimulus so that it will then compensate by getting stronger and bigger and developing in certain ways, right? So whereas a lot of upper body stuff, it's more like 8 to 12 reps or something like that. So if you're not doing enough, if you're only doing 3 reps, this is why like power lifters can be very strong, but also very chunky because they don't do they do like super heavy weights and just a few reps, just like benching, or whatever it is, right? So that is a huge thing that you have to understand, is about the twitch fibers in muscles. Another one too is it's about time under tension. And so like doing good clean reps, understanding like hinge points, like say if you're working your biceps, you want your elbows out in front so that because if you come back here, you start to engage other muscles. So performing the exercise properly and cleanly and like, what is it? And working with a weight that's appropriate. If you are cheating, you're cheating yourself. If you're swinging it up, even like, maybe on the last one, if you're swinging it up, right? Like whatever you can do to get those last couple reps, okay. But if you're cheating on the first ones, you need to go down in weight. You need to check your ego and you need to work with a weight that is appropriate to your strength level. And, it doesn't look cool picking up heavy weights, especially if anybody who knows better and they see you pick up these giant weights and your form is all off and you're cheating, it doesn't look cool picking up heavy weights. Do it right. That looks cool because you're actually going to make progress and you're going to get stronger and your muscles are going to get bigger and you're not going to hurt yourself. So time under tension, it's a thing. Your body will grow appropriate to the amount of time that your muscles have under tension. So what does this mean? It means that you have to do enough volume. Meaning like if you're going to say work out your shoulders, you need to do sufficient exercises that places them under tension for an amount of time which stimulates growth, but also not too much. And so this is the thing where, so it's about volume, but it's also about, so the thing is, there's a thing in bodybuilding where it's like, okay, sets. So what are you going to do? You're going to do, you can get into this mindset. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to do 3 sets of, say if we're talking shoulders, say like a military press. Say, oh, well, I'm going to do 3 sets of 12 reps. But when you do that, you have this mindset that are you going to give it your everything on your first set? No, because you have 2 more sets there. So all of a sudden, so you have volume, but you don't have intensity. And intensity is one of the big drivers of hypertrophy, of gaining strength and mass. Right? And so you have to be working with the complete equation. You can't just, be working with a piece of the equation, or else you're not going to get the gains that you're looking for, right? And it's hard work going there. Like you have to go there and you have to do this stuff. And it's like, for me, leg day comes once a week. It's like, don't waste your time there. Like it takes a lot of effort. You need to have your diet right. You need to, and you need to dig deep, like doing certain things like squats and stuff like that. They're not easy. So you need to, be in a mind frame where you're going there and you give it your all. And so this is the thing, and you might think that you are, but you can, there is such a thing about going about something in the wrong way. And so this is the thing. So you need that intensity. So something that, the thing is, if you get attached to the numbers, to those sets, then then you lose that intensity component. You can, right? It is possible, and you have to be wary of this. And so what I do now is, back after trying different things, back to essentially doing one set. Now that I've actually built strength, where I'm doing squats and I can really feel my leg muscles. At first, you have no strength, you're weak. But then eventually you get stronger and stronger, and then you're able to actually lift the weights, to move these weights through space and whatnot, right? And to perform, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm targeting these muscles. You know how to engage certain muscles and how to avoid allowing other muscles of taking over. You learn the proper form and stuff like that. And so then you get stronger. But then, if you do, what I was running into was I was doing too much volume, and then I'm exhausted. Or if I do 3 sets of flat bench and then 3 sets of dips and then 3 sets of incline, it's like, well, I'm too tired to do flies. I'm too tired to do this back stuff. I'm too, because I have a chest and a back day, a core day, a leg day, and an arms and shoulders day. And it's like, you can tucker yourself out. All of a sudden, it's like, well, I'm done. I can't perform. I'm done. I've used all of my energy. And so that is no good, right? Especially because there's so many good exercises out there to do. And so I've gotten back to the wisdom of Mike Mentzer. So one set, but to failure. And so to get the right amount of reps for the twitch fibers and the right amount of intensity, so that when you're doing squats, it's like, I know that I can do like 20 at this. So you have to, I know for me, I have a piece of paper where I keep track of all of my weights so that I know when I go into the gym, it's like, I can do this. And if I can do a few more, if I can do 25 squats, it's like, I'm going to add weight. You got to keep adding weight. It's about progressive overload. That's what it's about, right? But it's not just about that. It's about everything that I'm describing. So, so anyways, and then when it's back to one set, so one set of squats, like get them in, and then go do something else, then do some lunges, then do some Bulgarian split squats, and then do some hip thrusts, to work the glutes, the things that girls do to make their butts big. Like you do all of these different exercises. So rather than wearing yourself out on one, instead of when you're doing chest, doing 3 sets of there, and there, which is 9 sets, you do one set, and one set, and then you have room for this, and then you have room for this, and then so it's like budgeting essentially, but honoring at the same time and not wearing yourself out. And it's a game changer, of course, when you start doing things properly. And so it's just made such a difference in my life, because then I'm able to do all of the exercises that I want to, that are complementary, because there's a thing, say like when you're doing bench press, you're like this. And then it's your pecs in a contracted form, because you're like this. But then they also want to be worked in a stretched form. So that's why flies, there are complementary exercises. So you want to be able to do them both, not just one or the other. So you have to have sufficient energy to be able to do these things. Because if you get to the point where you're ready to do flies, but you have no energy, what are you going to have, like 5-pound weights in each hands? Like you're not going to get that intensity, because you're just spent. So you have to be intelligent about how you do this stuff, right? And so another thing too is the mind to muscle connection. So in the beginning, you can't feel it because you have no muscles and you're weak and you're just not used to it. But as you get stronger and you learn to dig deep and push through these exercises, you develop what is called the mind to muscle connection. And when you use weights that are appropriate, right? Not stuff where you're struggling and, like when you're doing the right amounts of weight and you can feel that muscle that is being targeted, and that you're moving the weight and you're targeting that muscle. So the mind to muscle connection. When you're doing a pull-up, where are your hands supposed to be? You got to know this, because it's going to change what muscles it's activating. And what is it doing too? It's your back. You know, this is you're building your back with that. Whereas if you have your arms out in front like this and you're doing a pull-up, you're doing your biceps. You know, of course, you're also doing some other places, but primarily you're targeting this as opposed to something like this, right? So you have to know physiologically what you're doing and about the different heads of the muscles, so that you know there is a front, a middle, and a back to a lot of different things, and there is a top and a bottom to a bicep, or like the ends, and there are exercises that works certain areas better or overall, right? Just like flat bench does overall, as opposed to incline does more up here, whereas like dips, holy cow, dips for me are the king of lower pectoral muscles. Anyways. And so, what else was it? Yeah, so the mind-muscle connection, that's a thing. And because so when you're doing these exercises, you're bracing for them. You brace your core and you squeeze, and just like when you're doing bench press, you're squeezing your chest. As you're doing it, you're engaging those muscles. You're making sure that you're using them and not just say pushing with your arms. Because it's a thing being a pusher or a puller, just using an arm puller is what they call it. So you have to be aware of this and develop that mind-muscle connection. It's like, okay, I'm using this, and you feel those muscles activated, you know, as you engage them as you're doing certain exercises, and that's how you're going to, you know, grow and stuff like that. So yeah, what else? Another thing is to do with isolation versus compound. So say something like a bench press, using a barbell bench press. This is, I believe, is what we would call like a compound movement, because you're using, you know, multiple joints and things like it. You're essentially targeting your chest, but you're also using your front delts, and you're using your arms, you know, like it's all a part of it. There are things, as opposed to doing dumbbells. So like doing flies or whatever isolated movement. Say if it's an overhead press, it's just easier on camera. You can do, say, like the military press with a barbell, which is like that, and this is for building strength. But then you use dumbbells. You isolate in order to correct imbalances and to perform different types of exercises that can't, because you can turn your hands and stuff that you can't perform with the barbell, right? Because it's very stationary. And so, yeah, you build power with the barbell exercises, but then you isolate with the dumbbell exercises, and you correct imbalances, and you focus on form, like other things. It serves a different function, right? That is very important. And this is the thing, you got to do both. It's both. It's not one or the other. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to do this. It's like, no, you have to do both. It's just like the whole contracted versus stretched forms of the exact same exercise, or muscle, not the exact same exercise, but targeting the same muscle. Something for me that, because like as a yoga teacher, it's very important after I work out, I always stretch, because you don't want to be one of those guys that like can't reach behind their back. I don't ever want to lose the ability to do this, or to squat, or, there's a lot of exercises that I wouldn't want to, I don't want to sacrifice mobility because I neglected to stretch afterwards. So what else? The split, yeah, I mean, I told you what my split is. So I guess I'll talk about it for 1 second. It's just that now I don't go every day. My body likes a day off. So I will say yesterday was Monday, I did legs. Wednesday will be probably uh, what push Wednesday will be chest and back, and then Friday will be core, and then I guess Sunday will be arms and shoulders. So making sure, because when you do chest and back, you use your arms a lot. So you want a bit of time in between when you have an arm and shoulder workout, which targets those things, as opposed to the chest and the back, so that you have sufficient time for everything to rest, because that's that whole thing that Menser would talk about, is how important it is to have sufficient rest in your practice, because that's really when your muscles are growing, is when you're resting and relaxing, allowing them to rejuvenate, to grow, to repair. And of course, that's where diet comes in, and you have to eat properly. It's been a big thing for me, figuring out how to feed myself properly. And you have to be aware of protein and carbohydrates. And I was intermittent fasting, eating one meal a day. It don't work anymore. Not bodybuilding. It's like not to do this. It's like, because I need I've heard about like going to the gym, like fasted workouts, yeah, but not starving workouts. If you go there when you're hungry, it's not good. Your body needs fuel. You need to fuel what you're doing. And so yeah, so it's important to eat properly. And I've just completely changed everything about the way that I eat. Well, no, I just eat. I've started eating a lot more fruit again, like for lunches and stuff like that. I have protein shakes all the time. Not all the time. I don't even have them every day, but I do supplement with it, as well as what else? I eat. I make bigger amounts of food now. So that, and then I used to always make everything fresh, but now I make like bigger amounts, and just I have it in the fridge so that it's there if I need it. And I found a meal in between lunch and dinner. It's called hors d'oeuvres, or appetizers, tapas in different cultures anyways. But eating something to whet the appetite, WHET, whet the appetite, to stimulate your appetite, your desire for more food, right? And so I've started doing that, and to me that's basically always an avocado and a bunch of sprouts. I sprout my own alfalfa sprouts. But yeah, so that is a thing, having diet proper, but also the intermittent fasting thing. So it's like I will eat dinner. Sometimes it's quite late, but it just is what it is. Sometimes I eat dinner at 9. It is what it is. It doesn't seem to interrupt my sleep or anything. But then I don't eat until the next day, like maybe around noon for lunch, unless I'm hungry. I listen to my body and I eat. There are times when I've worked hard, my body says, feed me breakfast. Yeah. And brunch and lunch and dinner, all that kind of stuff. It's probably not a workout day, but it's a feeding day. And another thing too, I've found organic coconut oil, say, as a thing. It's a way to add calories into your diet, whereas it can be challenging to add enough calories into your diet. But that is a way. Like, so if I make, say, like some mashed potatoes or something like that, I can put in a liberal amount of organic unrefined coconut oil, and then it really increases that thing. But so then the last thing, I need to have my breakfast right now. I have a couple of mangoes. It's mango season. And the last thing is to do with insulin sensitivity, right? And that's why the whole thing with intermittent fasting is good, because if you're just always eating, that is the road to diabetes. You want to have insulin sensitivity. So to the degree that you can healthfully, safely, intelligently fast, respecting your body's needs, but also not overloading it with stuff and not just being a garburator. Because they say, it's like if your insulin is what carries the nutrients to your cells and muscles and stuff like that. So it's like if you're not taking it in, if you're not insulin, if you don't have enough sensitivity and it's not getting into your muscles, you're going to be stuck. You're not going to grow. You're not going to see the gains. You're not going to have the energy that you need to perform. You're going to get tired. It's going to be a pain in the butt going to the gym, and you're going to feel exhausted all the time. So you have to have insulin sensitivity. Yeah, so that's it. That's everything that I've learned so far about bodybuilding and strength training and weightlifting. And I ride my bike. Oh, one last thing that I've learned about is to do with complexity of movement. Because a lot of the exercises that we do, say at the gym, they're on a certain plane. You're lifting weights like this, you're doing things like this, maybe you're doing things like this. But there's something to be said about, say, racket sports, because you're like moving all around like this, you're problem solving. Same thing with, rock climbing, because you're doing chin-ups, you're doing pull-ups, but you're problem solving. You're in all of these positions. So it's like, biking, it's very like this. Swimming is like this. Dancing is a great one, for movement complexity and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a thing. So there are, I love biking and swimming and running and all of that stuff. But yeah, these are all things to be aware of, and I do them all. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thanks. Bye.